All right, I think we might get started now. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. This will be our second webinar series for the semester, or for the year, I guess, at least. Tonight, we'll be hearing from Aurecon. We'll have 5 to 10 minutes just for everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll just let everyone, I guess, ask questions and anything you want to know, either about the company, the graduate program, anything like that. So my name is Natasha. I am one of the Swinburne Engineering Student Society board members, and I'll just give a quick introduction just to start with. So I know that we're all in different locations all around Melbourne, but I just wanted to do a quick acknowledgement of country. And the Swinburne Engineering Student Society acknowledges the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather here tonight, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to them and their cultures, and to elders both past and present. So for those of you who aren't really familiar with SESS, we were established last year really for the purpose of connecting students with each other, as well as with industry. We had a whole bunch of, I guess, events planned for this year, but however, as we're all at home, we'll be doing hopefully all of them online from now on. Just some housekeeping for tonight. For our webinar, any and every question is welcome tonight. We do recommend, if you can put your video on, definitely recommend it. Just make sure you mute your mic when you're not speaking. If your video seems too loud, just turning your video off. Please turn or put your phone on silent. When you're speaking, if you want to ask a question, just state your name and if you're addressing it to someone, who you're addressing it to. And really just enjoy the experience and be respectful. We are recording the webinar, so if you'd like a copy, we'll post it out to everyone. Without further ado, I'll get Steve really just to introduce all of our speakers tonight, and then we'll get started.
All right. Hi, everyone. So for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Steve. It's a rather old photo of me. I'm trying to stay as young as I can, even though that's probably about 8 years ago now. So for all of you, I'm the Emerging Talent Recruitment Manager for Aurecon. So essentially, I head up the process for graduate and intern recruitment for the business across Australia and New Zealand. So I've also got 3 of my colleagues here with me today. So Noam, Ashley, and Abdul. Now I know Ash said she was running a couple of minutes late. She's just stuck on a call with a client, so hopefully she should be here soon. But I might open it up to Noam and to Abdul to do a quick introduction as well. And then if you want, I'll do a little bit of info about the business, and then we'll throw to you to ask some questions of all of us as well. So Abdul, do you want to start?
All right, I'll go. Hi everyone, I'm Abdul, a structural engineer working for Aurecon past 10 months now. I've studied at Swinburne, did my structures master's from Swinburne. Coming on to Aurecon, been working 10 months, I've already mentioned. I've worked on different projects now. I understood how the company actually works, their culture. Latest projects I've been involved with were through RPV, Rail Projects Victoria, doing their asset dictionary, data dictionary. The other project is about Westgate Tunnel. I've been involved with that, but from an electrical side. The third one, the most recent one, is with a client who have had like 30 bridges. I did inspections for them, and also with Melbourne Uni. So I did building inspections for Melbourne Uni as well. So that's basic brief about myself and the work which I do at Aurecon. And I'll pass on to Norm, if he's here.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Noam. I studied civil engineering and commerce at Monash. I graduated at the end of last year. I started at Aurecon in November 2018 now. So I started as an intern as part of the internship program, where I worked full-time for the 3 months over the summer break. And then after that, I stayed on an Aurecon working 2 to 3 days while I did my last year of uni. And then I just joined as a grad with this year's group in February. I'm in the rail team, so I work as a track and civil engineer. And like Abdul, I've done a lot of work with Rail Projects Victoria, so working on projects like the Metro Tunnel and Regional Rail Revival, which you might have heard about. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
Awesome. Ash, you on the call yet?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so my name's Ashley. I've worked at Aurecon for a year and 3 months-ish. I did electrical engineering and biomedical science at uni, but now I'm in the electrical building services team at Aurecon. So mostly do the power and lighting in buildings. Some cool projects I've worked on. So I'm currently working on the Werribee Zoo upgrades. So they're basically tripling the size of the zoo and adding a new gondola train, cable car train in there. So that's pretty cool. And also worked on Melbourne Park, the new Hilton Hotel, so Melbourne Square. And I got to work on a train maintenance facility last year. So that was the first project I guess I kind of leaded. And it was a really good experience because you actually get to talk to clients and work with different types of engineers as well. So yeah, it's a bit about myself.
Awesome. Ash, I didn't realize we were doing the Werribee Zoo stuff. That's cool. I'll have to pick your
Yeah.
brain next time we can all catch up again.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. All right. So thanks to you three. And I guess for everyone else that's on the call now, really keen if you have specific questions for Ash, Noam, or Abdul, please feel free to throw them their way. I know that they should be able to do a pretty good job of answering anything that you've got, as Abdul's laughing in the background. So look, just a really basic overview of the business from myself. So look, really easy way of describing it is an engineering consulting and advisory firm. So a big chunk of the work that we do is a technical design role within a lot of projects. And that technical design space really sits across three of our big service lines. So our built environment team that Ash works in, our infrastructure group that Noam's in, and then we've also got an energy and resources team that's based here in Melbourne as well. Now, every office that we've got throughout all of Australia and New Zealand and internationally would usually have a flavour of each of those three teams. And then we've got a management consulting arm of the business, which broadly we refer to as advisory. That then has separate other teams that sit underneath it as well. So that's the division that Abdul then works in. So advisory for us is a little bit different. It's probably the least technical from an engineering design perspective, but they do get involved in quite a lot of technical work as well. So if you think about the overall lifespan of a project, where you look at that feasibility stage, where you actually see if a project is viable, should it receive funding, is it worthwhile proceeding? So we've got a team in advisory that does a lot of that work. We then would move into the tender design phase and the detailed design phase, which is where a lot of our big engineering groups come into it. Overarching across the top of that, we also have a project management role on a lot of projects as well, and we have a specialist PM team that sits in advisory at the same time. And then as you get to the end of a project, it's gone through construction, it's then been handed over, and then it's up to I guess the asset owner or the owner of that project to then run, maintain, and optimize their assets as best as they can. And I guess that's the work that Abdul's team gets into as well. I guess the reason that advisory for us is a little bit different is it does tend to intersect with the other three service groups that we've got. So you would tend to find that if we're working on, say, a big infrastructure project, as Noam has worked on in the past, what you might then find is some other advisory teams might cross over the top and provide some deep technical expertise into some of that work as well. Look, in terms of the spread of the business, so quite big in Australia and New Zealand, and then throughout Southeast Asia and into the Middle East as well. About 5,500 employees scattered around all those offices across all those locations. Obviously, Australia and New Zealand are probably the engine room of the business at the moment, notwithstanding everything that's going on right now. And from an applications perspective for grad, we are open until Sunday. So as long as you get something in before Sunday night this week, we'll still have a look at it. And this week for me has actually been getting in and reviewing quite a large number graduate applications that we've received. So I think so far, just for Victoria, we're probably nudging about 1,000 applications so far. So that's a lot of CVs and cover letters to read. So if any of you haven't applied and you want to get a bit of advice, this is probably the best time to do it, because I've probably gone through about 300 or 400 so far in the last couple of days. Yeah, it's a labour of love. All right, well, Natasha, I might throw it back to you and to everybody else to see what questions that people have for the four of us. And then, like, I think, look, everyone, like Natasha said at the start, are pretty comfortable to answer any question that you have, as long as it's still falling in that realms of being respectful. You know, especially given this is recorded, the last thing you want to do is to have me watch it back and then realize who's the person that asked something that was wildly inappropriate.
Sure thing. So yeah, anyone's free to open their mic and ask a question. If you're not comfortable to do that, you can definitely type a question in the conversation, the chat message, and we can read it out loud.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear and see me?
Yep.
My
Yes,
name is
yep.
Alex
Hi, Alex.
Thorberg. Hello. My name is Alex Thorberg. I'm an engineering student at La Trobe Uni. I wanted to ask anyone who thought they had an answer, what are some ways that Aurecon incorporates sustainability, and what are some things that you've done that focus on sustainability as part of the business? Thanks.
Hey, Ash, have you seen some of the stuff that the built environment team have done?
Yeah, I can answer this one. So with the Werribee Zoo project, we're actually our ESD team, so Environmental Sustainability Buildings team, design team, they're actually working on placing new solar panels on all the zoo. They actually already have trees, like these trees that actually have solar panels on top. So like solar panel trees, which is pretty cool. And the whole site's going to be carbon neutral, so that's really high sustainability goals. And yeah, and even throughout, like even as an electrical engineer, with things like lighting and well-being, we always try to pick the best lights to use so that it's good for the client and also the people who are going to work in the building. Yeah.
Yeah, and that ESD team also does quite a lot of energy modeling on the built environment as well. So part of the design process that a lot of our projects within the built environment team would work through is they come up with a schematic or a concept design that would then be modeled. The electrical team and the mechanical team would have an input into the type of services, and I guess then the power draw that was going to occur within the building. That ESD team would then run almost like an energy model of the facility, and then get an understanding of where they can make savings, like even the positioning of the building, the external skin or the facade of the project as well, and what that can then do not only to reduce energy usage, but then how can you use the natural environment to heat and cool the building at the same time. And then I guess as Ash said as well, there's that real wellness focus that's starting to come into projects as well, and that's then looking at taking a facility and reflecting on the people that use it. What can you do to make their experience more comfortable, improve the facility for those people that use it. And there's actually a wellness rating tool that we've started to be accredited with as well. So Alex, if you have a look at, there's a project which is our head office up in Brisbane. You can read some information about the well rating that building received. Now that's done some really funky stuff in it, which we wouldn't typically do on every single project that team would work on, but that might be something that you'd be well worth reviewing if that was something you were interested in.
Good afternoon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Abraham, how you going?
Hi, my question is for Stephen. What's the first thing that catches your eyes when you see the CVs and resumes? Because you have to skim through all this CVs and resumes, right?
Yes, yeah, I read pretty much every single one. So I guess to kind of let you all in, so my process is usually to read your cover letter first. So if your cover letter is really poorly constructed, that's a bit of a red mark already against your application. So, and look, when I talk about the construction of your cover letter, one thing to reflect on, our recruitment platform, which is also our HR system, Workday, is going to deformat a lot of, let's say, like fancy pictures or text or anything like that. It kind of strips it out and makes it relatively straightforward. So, you know, if you're doing a lot of visuals or anything like that in your cover letter, I'd probably recommend against it, because it's probably a bit of wasted effort. What I really look for in your cover letter is just how well you can write, and do I start to get a bit of an understanding of you, I guess, as a potential applicant. Look, that's difficult to get in a page, but some of the really good cover letters that I've read over the last couple of days would talk a little bit about, you know, themselves, almost like a bit of an introduction to themselves, a little bit of a piece around, you know, like why do they want to work for Aurecon specifically. That's a good way of demonstrating that you've either attended an event like this, or you've met some of our staff at other networking nights, or, you know, you've actually done some research on the internet. Please don't then copy and paste stuff from the net straight into your cover letter. I guess a reason to apply and want to work for Aurecon is not because we were in 27 countries and have 500 employees, right? You know, that's not a reason to want to work for an organization. Like, the why that would sit behind that would be that, you know, we're a geographically diverse company, and, you know, by having international offices may open up an opportunity for you to travel and move around, if that's something that you're interested in. And then I guess, Ibrahim, that last component of a really good cover letter for me is, and this is difficult, but it's the piece around, like, what's your uniqueness? What's the reason why I would want to keep your application in versus taking it out of a process? You know, so what unique qualities could you bring? What would set you apart from some of the others, you know, say on this call today as well? I think if you can get that into, you know, all of that into a page, that's a pretty good start.
Thank you, Steve.
No worries.
Hello.
We
Am I
can hear you.
audible?
Yep, you're on.
My name is Utkarsh, and I have a question for Noam and Abdullah. I wanted to know, for example, like, we live in a digital era, so obviously you give more emphasis to software. So what kind of softwares do you usually use for your projects, and how to, you know, get to know those softwares, and how do we get first-hand experience if you want to know?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. So for me, I use a lot of MicroStation. I don't know if you've worked with it. It's quite similar to AutoCAD. So for me, previously, I had learned AutoCAD before I started Aurecon. So MicroStation was a whole kind of new world for me. But yeah, they didn't expect me to know how to use these softwares, and I learned it on the job. So by asking a lot of questions, there's so many people around me that obviously are experts at this stage, so they were able to help me. And then there's also a lot of online resources you'll find. So like, I remember when I first started just looking up manuals on how to use MicroStation. So if you have spare time, I really do encourage you to learn it. Even just the basics, it gives you a good understanding. And then other softwares we use in the rail team are Bentley Rail Track, but that's very much specific to rail. I think Abdul will probably have some other softwares he uses.
Yep,
Right.
I would like to add the basic software, that's Bluebeam. Try to use or learn at least how do you use Bluebeam. It's available online. You have got sessions. They do offer free webinars for using, and also recently they have set up the Melbourne Bluebeam group, user group, where you can get tips and tricks and learn from them. I think you just search online, you get that. Apart from that, I also use Fieldforce, which is a digital software, which is basically Aurecon owned software. And you have a user guide for that. So I literally know nothing about it. I'm from asset management team. When I go on site, do condition assessments, I need to take down notes, take the location, markers, and also import, export data. So I literally know nothing about that software and came to know by using the user guide. And also you have people who work on digital space, like Bowen specialists. And also we have one person from Aurecon Digital in the chat here as well. So yeah, they help out. You just reach out people, ask them, and also the other asset management teams interstate. You can give them a call. Avni, she's one of the experts in field force. Yeah, I just ask people, learn myself. And also, yeah, when you're on the project, you have different difficulties. You can't say you know everything. Even if you're an expert, you consider yourself an expert in any of the software, you still find something new when you work on a project. Say, maybe try yourself, learn out, check resources, ask people, best tips.
Yeah, so just if I can add, don't stress if you don't have or have never experienced any of those platforms. Like as Noam was saying, one of the big things for us is that we're actually going to teach you a lot of that whilst you're with us. I mean, if you do understand it, it's not necessarily going to get you a job versus not get you a job. It's probably more that you might start out on a slightly faster learning curve if you've already had some type of experience with it before. But if you haven't, don't stress. It's certainly not going to be held against you when you go through the process.
Cool. Thank you so much, Stephen, Noam, and Abdullah. Thank you so much.
I have another question.
Sure, go, Abram.
Okay, so as a student, we don't have much clue which stream to join, whether structure, road, or so. Is there a chance that we can and practice it for ourselves?
Yeah. Okay. So look, we don't have a rotation, like a formal rotation program within the business. And if you have applied this year, Ibrahim, what you probably would see is you define the discipline that you're coming with. And then we give you a couple of options of which business or which component of the business you're looking to join. So as you click each of those, you'll actually get a bit of an expanded list of, I guess, the different subgroups that might sit in some of those teams. Like, so for example, if you're applying as a civil engineer and you've got a broad interest in transport, there's a whole bunch of different options that you could say, look, if an opportunity came up in one of these areas, I think that'd be pretty cool. So like in Noam's team, in the rail team, in roads, in transport planning, in geotech and tunnels, in the airports team, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to give, I guess, to start your graduate career, we try and give you an opportunity to work in a field that you are interested in or potentially have a bit of a passion for. I guess the flip side of that is that, yes, you may start there and then you may go a year or two and go, oh, don't think I really like this as much as what I would have thought. But we're a business then that's still big enough that can give you some flexibility to move into a different team. The only caveat that we have with that is that, look, as a consulting practice, everything that we do is based on billable time. So if you want to move to a team that is flush with work and has a lot on, it's probably going to make that process a lot easier. If you want to move to a team that is maybe going through a bit of a lull phase or is actively bidding to win more projects, it might not be the right time to join. But by having a chat with your manager through your performance and development review process that we call Let's Talk internally, that's then a really good opportunity to flag some of those other areas of interest that you may have, because it might then mean that as a project comes up that aligns with one of those teams, you may not need to leave the business that you're in. Like, say, for example, you're in buildings and you express an interest to work on some of the bigger infrastructure projects. As those projects come up, you may actually get a chance to stay in buildings, but then be seconded onto one of those gigs for a couple of months. And that does happen pretty regularly. So certainly something to take in mind.
And I might just add to what Steve was saying. For me, I most certainly didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I had a bit of an idea what I was interested in, what I wasn't, but I wasn't really sure. And I don't know if you've got the same experience, but from uni, I didn't know what you actually do if you are a water engineer. I just knew the technical work I did or didn't like. I wasn't sure what the actual work was. So what I found really, really helpful is, especially when I first started as an intern, I would talk to all the interns and just ask them, what are you actually doing? And I got them to show me some of their work so I could try and understand what the work actually is, and then I could figure out, is this something I'm interested or not? Also, you talk to people in the business and find out kind of what they do and a little bit about their work. So that's also a really good way to find out what you do and don't want to do without having to actually work in that team.
Awesome, thanks. That was really helpful.
I can
hello.
add that.
Yeah,
Still, I would say like all the projects which I mentioned were from different teams. It was not 100% asset management except the Melbourne Uni, which was basically one by asset management team. Apart from Melbourne Uni, the one Westgate Tunnel, it was from energy resources, because being a structural engineer, every other team do have structural engineers, and when they have less in resources, people resources, they can use other people, other interns or grads. Like I've done the rail project Victoria with Pit Environment, and Westgate Tunnel was the recent bridges which I did was from transport. So I'm basically involved with other teams. Anyhow, being in asset management, still you can have the chance to work with other teams, know things which you want to do, maybe try out just like one project, not just get into the team. 100% movement I'm talking about. You can try things if you want. Speak with your line manager and then say, I don't have much work in asset management or your org. And then start speaking with the leaders of other orgs, maybe interstate. You can do work remotely as well.
Yeah.
Steve, I have a question.
Yeah. So can I ask a question now? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
Yeah, I'm also trying to say that at this period, even I'm the third year of the engineering student, and I didn't work at any place, so it means that I don't have any experience of working. So after I graduate, do you feel that I still get able to apply and get a job for the company here or not? Yeah.
Okay, so just want to make sure I heard you correct, because there's a little bit of interference with your microphone. So you're saying that you haven't had any practical work experience, and would that count against you when you're applying for a grad position?
Yeah, I just did some of the volunteer in our university, but the rest I didn't get any part-time job or anything like that. Just the volunteering for community a little bit, at the university campus a little bit, 2 parts. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Look, the thing that we've always talked to students about is it's less about the type of experience that you've had, and maybe more about the skills that those experiences have helped build within yourself. Now, that can be, like you said, Mike, it can be done as, volunteer stuff that you've done on campus at university, like you've shown kids around at O Week, try to convince them that Swinburne's the place to be, or, you've done work with a student society, you've had any paid casual work, or you've gone and done a professional internship. Now, regardless.
No, not internship. No, I haven't done internship. Just the volunteering. Yeah.
No, that's all right, Mike. So what I was saying is, regardless of the type of work experience or volunteer experience that you've had, each experience has built some level of skill or some competency. So what we usually like to see reflected in your application is that you're able to articulate, what those skills have been. So, like, for example, like if you did volunteer around the university campus and you've had to work with students, that may have built some good communication skills for yourself. If you've worked at a student society, like you've been the secretary or the club treasurer, maybe you've got a little bit more financial acumen than what the stock standard graduate might be. If you've had a leadership role or a team lead role, anything like that, again, it's developed a skill. What we would like to see in your application is more of a discussion around those skills and how you've built them, as opposed to the tasks that you've undertaken during your volunteer work. If you can do that really effectively, it will strengthen your application quite a lot. And then, who knows, we'll have to see how you go after that.
Yeah, Steve, I have a question for you. Hello, Steve.
Hey,
hello.
Adnan.
Yeah, Adnan. I'm a graduate electrical engineer from Swinburne. I graduated in June 2018. I'm still eligible to apply for a graduate role?
Yes. Yeah. Look, we've actually removed the year of graduation restriction that we used to have. We did that a couple of years ago. So we used to look at it as 2 years, and 2 years was about the cutoff. I guess the reason behind that is that we made a bit of an assessment that the longer that you're away from university, the less likely it is that you've been able to keep your technical mind working to the same extent. And so we kind of looked like if you'd been out of university for more than 3 years, it was probably going to be a bit of a struggle to learn and grasp some of the technical things that you'd need as you started the job. But from what you're saying, I think it's 2018, not too much of a problem so far. What I would recommend is that you're able to still kind of articulate, like the technical experiences you've had, and just kind of demonstrate to, someone like myself as the person reading your application, or if you're lucky enough to get through to an interview, that your technical mind.
Yeah. Till I'm working, even I was at uni, I was working in the company, but I need to apply for Aurecon. I was looking for a project which electrical. Also, more question. What is the selection criteria, stage of criteria for a graduate role?
So as in, like, what are we looking at when we're assessing your application?
No, I mean the stage. After you apply your resume and the cover letter, what's the next stage?
Sure. The next stage is I read it. So I would read. So if you applied in Melbourne, I would read pretty much every application that we would receive. So last year that was about 1,700 applications, and I think, like I said, this year it's about 1,000. So I would read it. Like I said, I'd have a look at your cover letter. If you've got a really bad cover letter, I'm probably going to knock you out straight away. So make sure you put a bit of effort into that. And then I'd have a look at your CV, get a bit of an understanding of those skills that we talked about, some of the experiences that you've had, and based on that, kind of make a decision whether we keep you in a long list or we take you out. So if we take you out, you'll obviously get a rejection email. If you're in the shortlist, we then would do a further review depending on how many candidates we've got in there, because at the moment we've got, so after our interns took some positions, we've probably got about another 25 positions left here in Melbourne that we need to fill. And obviously, if we've got 1,700 applications, you don't want to have an interview shortlist that's too long for that. So we do a big review, try and cut as much of it out as we can. We then look at all the students that really stood out and then do a further review, probably take a little bit more. And then from there, we go into usually a phone hookup. Now that would be with someone like myself or another member of the recruitment team. If you get through that point, in previous years, it would have been an assessment center. So, like a half day where we'd bring you in, we give you some group activities to work on, you do a short, sharp interview, there'd be some networking, there'd be a little bit of a presentation that you'd do. Obviously, this year, that's not going to be possible, at least for grad. Maybe for intern, we might be out of self-isolation by the time our intern process comes around, but for grad, it's probably more going to be an interview, so that would probably run for about 45 minutes to an hour with a setup kind of like this. So someone like myself from the recruitment team, one of our recent graduates or emerging professionals, and then a hiring manager. And the three of us would be having a chat with you like this through a video call. We'd ask you some questions, and then based on your responses, we then make a decision on whether we were going to offer the job or not. If you don't get the job, I'd still give you a call and give you some structured feedback as to why. I've found, especially doing that after the assessment center process, it's been really beneficial for students to realize, not necessarily where they've gone wrong, because sometimes you don't actually get anything wrong in those processes. It's that someone else has actually just done it better than yourself. Then trying to provide some of that, practical, I guess, practical feedback, for want of a better term, I think we found pretty beneficial in the past. And then, if you make it your way through the interview, we'll give you a job, and then you'll start February next year.
All right. Thank you. Thank
No
you.
worries. All right.
Hi,
Who's
guys.
next? All right. Ibrahim, again, this is question number 3.
Okay. So, what's your response for the current situation? Like, treatment of your employees, or?
Yeah, well, guys, maybe you might want to all have a bit of a chat about what your own personal experiences have been in the last 2 to 3 weeks as we've all gone into working from home mode, and then I can talk about what I've done as well.
So I started working from home now about 3 weeks ago. Still doing the same work. It's obviously we've had to change a few things, so making sure that we're communicating with the rest of our team has been really, really important. So I know with my team, we've kind of set up every second day, we've got a meeting to catch up and make sure everyone's kind of got tasks and knows what's happening. So it's same work, haven't been affected too much, just working from home and having to make sure communication has really just been the most important part, I think, during this time.
Yep. For me, I've been working from home for almost 2 weeks now. So all our meetings have been moved to Microsoft Teams. Even we usually have presentations from suppliers or manufacturers. So we've even got them to schedule it through Microsoft Teams. So we're still continuously learning about the modern technology out there. When we first worked from home, to be honest, the VPN was quite slow, but then they gave us a new VPN and fixed it. So now the network's a lot faster. Yeah, so I mean, I think I've quite enjoyed working from home. The only downside is the social aspect. But I know we had virtual Friday night drinks last week, but I didn't join in, but maybe this week. Yeah.
To me, I think it's not a big difference because we already had that Yes Flex policy, which I quite often use it once or twice a month. Already from past 9-8 months, I've been using that, so nothing new. But the only thing which I was missing was human factor. I had the initial audio calls rather than video calls, but I spoke with Steve and he advised me to have video calls, and I started doing this week. I've been working from home past 3 weeks now, almost, and every day 4:45 to 5 we have team catch-ups, so they check up on us every single day of the week. And coming on to projects, we have weekly catch-ups now. So every Wednesday afternoon, time is being set, fixed, done. Apart from them, trying to also have virtual coffee catch-ups set up, trying to just put up a random 15-minute catch-up on everyone's email. Anyone who I normally meet in the office previously, Skype them, video call, that's different. And this week, I started having my home office, my desk set up. That's something different. Previously, I was not worried much about. But now, Aurecon do have a policy of working from home. You have to have these. So that's occupational health and safety thing. But I'm enjoying sitting on a table, working how I work. Other thing is with the projects. I feel like I'm having more work now when compared to the times when I'm in the office, because normally now we do everything on meetings, don't go and approach people. Normally we used to walk around 7,000 to 10,000 steps. It's 100 to 400 now at max. That's what I'm missing. And no difference. Same thing, more projects, more work. So remote work. Enjoying it.
Yeah, look, I'm probably like everybody else. I think that social aspect is probably the one piece that you probably feel the longer that you are at home. But I have called some of our grads that moved for roles this year just to do a bit of a sanity check and how they're going, given that they're a little bit more isolated than the rest of them. For myself, it's been a bit of an adjustment. So like Abdul, I'd usually do about a day a week from home usually every week. Now I would then just put my laptop at the dinner table and just work off that because that was okay for a day. But now that we're going to be doing this a little bit more permanently, I actually rearranged my whole house to get the spare room set up as a working office. So I've got a proper monitor, my keyboard and mouse are here, my laptop's my second screen. So I've kind of got a little bit of the feel of being back in the office. And like Abdul said, I've probably recommended to a bunch of our young professionals to proactively get out there and catch up with each other. I think it's just sometimes people feel a little bit uncomfortable, or look, everyone's probably busy. maybe I shouldn't try and reach out to them and have a chat. I think it's really important to ensure that, especially if you're feeling a little isolated or a little disconnected from everything, just to get out there and reach out to your networks that you've got. And you'd be surprised how much better you feel after having a 20 or 30-minute video chat with someone as opposed to just being on the phone. It kind of starts to make it feel like you're back in the office again. But yeah, look, like Abdul said, we were already really well set up to work remotely through through our IT setup and some of our working from home policies. I guess this has just kind of meant that now everyone does it permanently as opposed to just like, on an ad hoc basis.
Hello. My name's Sarah. I'm studying product design engineering, and I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the culture at Aurecon. Like, what are some of the values that you have and things like that?
All right, who wants to talk about look, I guess, Sarah, one of the things to say before everyone jumps in, obviously the business has a culture that it likes to work towards, but you'll find that that each individual team, each individual office has a slightly different flavor to it because it's really made up by the individuals that are in there. So Ash, Abdul, Noam, do you want to talk about the team and the culture of where you are currently based and what your experience has been?
Yeah, I'll say something quickly. The culture of Aurecon is actually one of the reasons I chose Aurecon as the place to do my internship and my grad program. From speaking to people, I'd heard such amazing things about the culture. And just from those short 3 months that I was there as an intern, I really saw what a difference it made. Yeah, obviously it changes between each team. My team, well, it's a rather large team, the rail team, and we're all quite spread out because a lot of us are at different project offices, so we're not physically in the same office most of the time. We do a lot of kind of social gatherings and catch-ups to make sure that there's still that kind of fun atmosphere within the team. Yeah, I think obviously it depends what team, and every team's different, but I really, really love the culture. Everyone is super friendly. And I don't know if you would call it one of the values, Steve, you might be able to correct me, but one of the values of work with serious intent. I don't know the exact wording. What is it, Steve?
So the playful with serious intent principle, that's the one that you're referring to?
Yep. Yes. Yep. So that's one of the Aurecon principles, and to me, that action.
Ash, how about yourself?
So so with my team, the built environment, I guess we're a bit different in that we are all on the same level pretty much all the time. So there's a bunch of grads on level 8, which is where I work, level 7, sorry. And then yeah, so even like last year we had a lot of social events. We had a cool Kris Kringle at the end of the year where everyone got to buy each other presents. And in terms of principles, I think we're very unconventional thinking. Like if you have an idea, they're always willing to hear. So for example, I was interested in specialist lighting, and I felt it was easy for me to approach my team leader and ask if I could develop skills in that. And then he actually got me in touch with the Sydney team to learn about that. And I think that's something I really appreciate. And even in terms of work culture, the working from home situation, before coronavirus, I feel like it wasn't very different because there were always opportunities to work from home, and they were quite open-minded about that. Yeah, so and I think this year we have the Aurecon ball. They have it every second year, so I'm excited to join
Hopefully
that.
we'll have it as long as this this finishes.
Yeah. Well, the end of the year, so fingers crosses. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say that coming on my personal experience, my team is too small, like 4 people in whole Melbourne, but still, they're super friendly. We have team lunch, let's talk sessions, bring in donuts, Krispy Kreme every time we go. Let's talk session. Apart from that, yeah, my line manager is super friendly. It's like any training you want to do, go for it. You've got already the expenses for your career development, and I think I've already used one of mine. for the repair workshop, for concrete repair workshop. The other thing is when I work on different projects, even the project leaders, they are super friendly. Even I've shared this with my SESS team already. They have encouraged me to apply for top 100 grad program, which was with Grad Connection. She encouraged me, also approved my leave. I did had the extended leave last year, and that was through my project leader. You've got really flexible thinking. And when it comes to the Aurecon events, you also have the bridge event, bridge building competition. We did participate in that. Also, I've worked with Noam on Green Account, which was through Limelight. That's initiative. That's how I knew her. Working with Ash, did a couple of events with her. And we also do have other events which Aurecon organizes, like Engineers Without Border. You can still go out. I'm one of the galvanizers now. We organize school trips. That's a voluntary leave. 1 day, I think that's paid, 1 day per year. I've used that last year, and hopefully we'll be using this year as well. So we went out, reached out like 400 young students, female students, you could say, at a time with Uni Melbourne, and there were like 8 to 10 different Aurecon people with us. So that's how you know people internally. You get to connect with them, make connections, super friendly, anyone you can approach. I used to think when I was outside Aurecon, I met Lauren for the first time. She was from Aurecon. That's how I came to know. I used to think like just Aurecon advertises things, but when you actually get in there, you work, you'll realize how the culture is. I just can say, try it out. You'll realize, and I've moved around companies, already 4 of them, and this is the longest I have ever stayed. That's one of the reasons.
Awesome. Look, I guess my experience is pretty similar. I get the only difference being I've probably been in the business for a lot longer than the 3 others that are here today. So I'm almost at 10 years now. And like I guess the reason I've stayed so long, the culture is created by the people that actually work in the business, right? You can have your corporate values and your principles and all the different things that the company says that it should be doing. But unless everyone kind of pulls together and lives and breathes it, it doesn't mean a hell of a lot. And I think, the teams that I've worked in, the grads that I've recruited over the years that I've been here, I think, everyone kind of gets in and embraces and really finds, they find a place that they're really comfortable to work. It's a really inclusive organization. If you look at I guess not only from a gender diversity perspective, but we're trying to do a lot more around LGBTI inclusion. We've got a diversity committee that's set up in each region within Aurecon as well, and they look at bunch of different initiatives and different events to put on to really show people that we're a business that's not the classic middle-aged white male engineering organization. We do look pretty different. So and look, I guess, Sarah, the only way that you're really going to know if the culture fits on you is to actually get in and see if it works. And hopefully you've got a little bit of an impression just from the chat that we're having this afternoon as well. A little bit less formal, a little bit more relaxed.
Thank you.
Probably got time for a couple more. Who's next?
Hello, me again. If I may ask a question to add on to that, ties in well. What was the reason that you all chose to join Aurecon in the first place? And I'll note that I've already made my application, so I'm not fishing for answers there. What was the reason? What drew you to Aurecon in the first place? Thanks.
All right. Shall I start? Okay, cool. The experience which I had with my previous employer, Vic Roads, which was related with asset management, that was one of the reasons. Apart from that, coming on to human factor, my great inspiration, Lauren Thompson, as I've already mentioned, she works for Aurecon, and I've met her at Engineers Australia. That's how I started my volunteering for EA. Xavier is on the call, he can say that. I met her in the Elevation event, 2018. She talked me through about how Aurecon is, what actually the company does. That's how I came to know about them first time. And then I have like, okay, I have that company as a target, and then I started looking around. Yeah, and now I had a chance. That was like an open role. I said like, why not give it a try? And I was expecting like I would be getting a rejection, but I got an offer. So all right, can you speak about the remuneration and the package? I thought like, okay, fine, let's go on.
Hi guys, this is Xavier from Engineers Australia. Thanks for the mention, Abdul. Very kind of you. If there is somebody who's dedicated to Engineers Australia, it's you. I had a quick question, Steve. Just when we were talking a bit earlier about diversity and inclusion, knowing that the figures of female in engineering is very low, I was wondering if you know off the top of your head the percentage of women in engineering at Aurecon. A great ambassador for your organization is definitely Lauren. And also, what do you do any activities specifically in the STEM space? A longer term strategy when trying to get young boys, young girls into engineering. Do you go to primary schools, secondary schools, high schools, etc.?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so off the top of my head, the business, so internationally, is sitting somewhere around 34% female, so significantly higher than, I guess, the graduating average, which is anywhere between 11 to 13% most years. The business has a commitment to continually improve on that. Our biggest challenge is probably less at the grad and I guess at that emerging talent level, and probably more as you move into more senior leadership roles. But anyone that follows the business would know that our Australian New Zealand Chief Executive Louise Adams is a very big proponent for driving that gender equality piece from an executive leadership position. So I think that's where the structural change will need to come from, because so we've been at about a 50-50 grad intake now for the last 2 to 3 years, which is really good, and then the same for our intern program as well. In terms of what we do from a social outreach perspective, a lot of our staff proactively do a lot of things off their own bats. Like Abdul was saying, with Engineers Without Borders, we've got quite a large involvement with them, but more on an individual that's interested type perspective. The big one that we do every year, and it's an Australia and New Zealand level approach now, where it used to just be Australia, is the Aurecon bridge building competition. So every year, usually around September, we communicate with secondary schools, so it's aimed at year 9 and 10 students. So we communicate with schools, invite them to participate. It's completely free for them to enter. We provide them, support from a technology perspective, because part of the component that we're trying to push now is some digital construction, as well as the physical construction of the bridge that they'll then do. And then what we do is we organise in every state, and then the main capital cities within New Zealand as well. We would organise a big day where 40 to 50 schools would actually come along. They bring the bridge that their team built, and a lot of schools would then actually run an internal competition. So they'd have student teams competing in their school, and then the winning team would then come out to this event. What we then do is we place it, we weigh the bridge, we place it under load and continually add load until it reaches a point of structural failure. And then what we do is we award a series of prizes, which are sponsored by the companies like Vic Road, construction firms. There's a digital prize that I think last year was sponsored by AutoCAD as well. So we bring a lot of corporate partners into that process as well. But the idea is to show young students that engineering can actually still be a bit of fun, and really try and break down that stigma of, well, maybe not stigma, but a lot of students, when they think of engineering, think high vis, hard hat and boots, and you have to physically do construction or work in a plant or something like that. So what we're really trying to show them, and especially when they then come to the event and they see especially a lot of our young professionals in jeans, in our corporate t-shirts that we're wearing, that we've probably got a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. So if they are considering a career in STEM, it's a good option to take. And and we have a lot of fun, right? it gets super competitive, especially as you get to the latter stages of the testing. You know, we probably hype it up a little bit, but you know, as the students then see whose bridge is actually doing really, really well, it kind of creates a bit of competition. You can see them having a look at all the ones that have failed. What did they do differently to ours? So they then learn and pass that information on for you know, for teams that might come and compete for next year as well. Yeah, and we've been doing the bridge building competition for years now, like a really, really long time. So it's definitely worth its weight.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, guys.
Hi, who's that?
Ibrahim again.
Oh, geez, mate. Question number 4. All right. Actually, Ibrahim, maybe we should. Do you want to just hold, because it's hit 5 o'clock now. I just want to give, if anyone else has got a question that they want to ask, just to kind of give them a shot. If we don't hear anything, let's say in the next 10 to 15 seconds, you can ask it one. That might need to be the last one that we've got.
Sure, fair enough.
So this is like the speak now or forever hold your peace part of the evening.
Hi, Steve. Just have a quick questions. So regarding the current challenging period, what are the support in place that the business provide to the employees when they work from home? Yes, I just want to understand about that more. Thank you.
Sure. So you mean in terms of the situation that we're all finding ourselves in now with the coronavirus? So, I mean, look, obviously one of the biggest supports I think is that the business, a lot of our staff already had laptops and were able to connect to, as Ash said, to a virtual private network that gives you access to pretty much everything that you need right from the bat. But there's been every week there's an email from our global chief operations officer who's leading our COVID-19 task force internally. So what he then does is to give everyone a bit of an update on, you know, like how the business is traveling, how our staff are being impacted, what the business is doing to ensure that we're supporting our clients, we're still getting work for people to do, because obviously, you know, that getting work for people to do means that, you know, people actually have work and then keep their jobs. And that, I think that real regular communication that Andrew puts out at least once a week is actually quite comforting. I tend to read it and go, okay, like, you know, now we've had a couple of cases in Sydney that have been formally diagnosed, but, you know, we get updates on how they're tracking, how their health is, all that kind of stuff. And then our global CEO, Bill Cox, who is really fond of a polo top. I've noticed striped polo for Bill seems to be his working from home gig. He's been doing a series of weekly videos that he films and then puts it out to the whole business. So just as a bit of an update. So what he then talks through is the current state of play, like how we're moving against the strategy of the organization, and just trying to reassure everyone that, you know, yeah, it is serious. You know, there is stuff that's going on that's really difficult for us to manage, but that, you know, the business is actually pulling itself together to make sure that we get through it. He also said in his video that came out this afternoon that, and because he's based in Sydney, he probably knows the employees, but the confirmed cases that we've had in the Neutral Bay office, he's personally called them, had a chat, made sure that they were okay. How are they going? How are their families going? So, and I think, you know, if your global chief executive officer is actually reaching out and giving you a personal phone call, I think it really shows that sense of empathy that a lot of the senior leaders are really trying to demonstrate during this time. And then, you know, encouraging people to check in. Like, I know our Melbourne Limelight chapter had organised a big catch up for all of our emerging professionals in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. Again, using something like Teams that people could jump onto, you know, type questions, you know, use their audio and video setups, the whole kit, right? So we're really just trying to make sure that people realize, yes, it is serious. There's a lot going on, but you're not alone at the same time, right? You know, the rest of the business is still here, and we're still kind of pushing on.
And if I can just add to that, we have an employee assistance program as well, which I think a lot of people have been using during this time. And it's basically a kind of confidential, usually you can meet face-to-face or do phone calls or video chats with someone who's external from our company to just chat about any issues or stresses you're having, and it doesn't have to be work-related. So I think obviously this time is very, very nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So there's a lot of support for anyone who does want it.
Yeah, and that's completely free as well. So any
Also
staff
for
can
the
access
family
it.
members.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, can I still ask you? I'll ask you one more question. Yeah, because I've also heard the either of the speakers says about internship. So does your company has got the program for internship, or you just have graduate, no internship program or any placement program? Yeah?
Yeah, so we definitely have an intern program. So Noam's a really good example. She came through our internship program over the summer of 2018-19 and then stayed on and got a job out of it through our grad program for this year. So yes, we run it every year. It's obviously going to look potentially a little bit different in the current environment, but we're going to wait until late July, early August, and then kind of reassess at that point, depending on when this social separation or social isolation piece, like forever how long that's going on. That'll probably determine what our internship looks like for this year. I think a lot of us are pretty positive that by September, October, it'll all be over, and we'll be back in the office and catching up with everyone the same way that we used to. In the eventuality that it's not, we'll need to start preparing some contingency plans.
Yes, and also one more thing I'm going to ask you is for the internship. If we take either here or any other place, will the process be the same as the graduate program? Like you said, first take the resume and cover letter. You read the cover letter first, and after that you decide which one first. So like if the cover letter is not directly away, is it correct? Yeah.
Yeah, so the process for coming into our intern program is identical to the process to get into the graduate program. I think the reason why we've done that is that we actually do like for our interns to stay, especially if they've done well and take a grad role with us. So if we give the business a sense of confidence that they've gone through the same level of rigor as what our graduates have, it just makes managers that much more comfortable that they've seen a wide cross section of talent. Their intern has performed really, really well over the summer. And so when we turn around to them and say, okay, well, we should be offering this person a job, it's a very quick agreement, which, look, is great for those that get an intern role. But Mike, I guess the kicker is we usually have more graduate positions every year than we do have intern positions. So there's always, at the moment for us, there's always a need to bring on more grads through the direct application process that you may be going through now.
Okay, everything's good. Okay, thank you again.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, look, it's almost 5:10. I don't know about you, but I've got 2 kids that are going to start banging down my door, wanting to know what's Dad doing and why is he talking to all these crazy people. So look, everyone, Natasha, thank you very much for organising this. I hope it's been insightful and you've taken some good stuff away from it. And look, like I've said to a lot of the other, video kind of networking chats that I've done this week, if you've got any other further questions or anything like that, or you want to reach out, you can track me down on LinkedIn. I'm pretty open, pretty transparent through that platform. Especially at a career expo, most people would usually then hunt me down that way. Send me a connection request, send me an email, and we can have a chat. Just don't forget, obviously, applications for us close on Sunday. I don't work on Saturday and Sunday, funnily enough. So if you do have a question about an application or a sanity check or something like that, if you ask me really, really late on a Friday, I'm probably not going to get it either, right? So you've got a couple of days, drop me a note, but otherwise, best of luck, and hope to chat to you all again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aurecon, Stephen, Ashley, Noam, and Abdul. And thank you everyone for coming.
Awesome.
Thank
I'll see
you.
you all next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.